Hi, I'm Rebecca from Same Studio. I run a creative business, a design and development agency with a second Rebecca, and we specialize in creating custom Shopify themes for our clients. In this video, I'm going to talk about the truth of freelancing and why I wouldn't recommend it. I feel like whenever people talk about being a freelancer or becoming self-employed, especially when it comes to creative services, the thing that they're always thinking about are things like, one, freedom when it comes to your time, being flexible, being able to work whenever you want for whoever you want. And the second thing is creative freedom. So being able to be as creative as you want and do things however you want without having another instance above you, like an art director telling you how to do things. And while these two things are partially true, they aren't what you expect. So the first one, flexibility of time. Yeah, sure, you can do whatever you want whenever you want, but at the end of the day, you still have deadlines, you still have timelines that you want to meet, and more often than not, you end up working 24/7. And yes, obviously you need to take time off. You need to make sure that you're actively stopping at a certain point and you are keeping your weekends to recharge and not to just continue doing work, because why not? You can. Yes, do all that, but still there is never an end to the work that you do, and it's always there, and it's always there in the back of your mind. You're constantly at work. So yeah, you have the flexibility to do whatever you want, but at the beginning you're always going to feel like, well, I have time now, so I might as well work on the business. But just because you have time doesn't mean you should use it to work. Super important. But I feel like what people forget about freelancing is that you are running a business, and there's so much that goes into running a business that you forget a lot of the time, because you're thinking of things like, oh, I want to be able to work whenever I want, I want to have freedom, I want to be super creative. I guess what I'm trying to say in this video is that really worth it? So things to consider when it comes to deciding whether you want to be a freelancer or not are things like, do you want to have to take on your own clients to make a living? Would you prefer somebody else doing that for you and you're just kind of subcontracted to do the actual work? Or do you want to go as far as you want to hire other people to do the actual work and you just manage things? So I feel like there are three business models when it comes to self-employment and freelancing as a creative person that not everyone considers when they start off. Most people think of just being a freelancer doing the creative work. You end up though being kind of a one-person agency situation where you have your own clients and you're responsible for everything: project management, account management, the actual work, execution, bookkeeping, and all that stuff. While a lot of people, I think, would be happier as a contractor. So a contractor is someone who is contracted by, subcontracted by an agency or maybe another self-employed one-person show who's looking for somebody to do the execution work. So let's say someone is doing a website, maybe it's an agency that does development. Their client wants design from this agency though. They want the agency to handle everything. But the agency is like, well, we don't have designers, so we're gonna have to subcontract someone. So they look for a designer to do the web design and they do the development. So they might contact you as a web designer and be like, hey, we needed someone to do the design and we're going to sell this to our client. There's some pros and cons there. The biggest pro, and honestly, I would much rather do this a lot of the time than what I'm actually doing. The biggest pro is you don't have to worry about anything except the creativity and delivering things on time. You don't have to worry about the project management, client management. Your bookkeeping is very simple because you only have the invoices you're invoicing to this one agency and nobody else. So that agency, if they like you, they'll probably book you again, and it can lead to a very steady income and you know where your money's coming from, and it's very similar to an employment with all the freedoms of being self-employed. Like, it's a win-win. The thing that I think bothers a lot of people though is that it's hard to build a portfolio doing that because often you are white labeled. So what is white labeling? White labeling is when this agency sells their client this all-in-one solution. Doesn't necessarily tell the client they're outsourcing the design. So they outsource the design to you and they're like, hey, you can't tell anyone you did this though because our client thinks we did this in-house. They also have that client in their portfolio and they don't want you to also have that client in your portfolio. portfolio. That can be frustrating because it's difficult to build a portfolio when you're constantly being white labeled, because you can't put that work out there anywhere for people to see. One tip I can give you there is that what you can do is be a little bit sneaky about it. I don't recommend lying to the agency. You don't want to build bad blood there because that's a good source of income. So you don't want to be showing that publicly that you worked on that project if you've been officially white labeled. But what you can do is if clients come to you and request a portfolio, don't send it to them, but you can show it to them on a call, for example, be like, I did this work for this agency. I was white labeled, but it is my design. I feel like that's a gray area when it comes to the ethics of it all, and it was something I would recommend doing. I always tell people who want to do the freelance thing and are creative and want to be really working on the creative stuff, and in terms of the work, want to be employed, but they don't want all the stuff that comes with being employed. Look for agencies or bigger corporate companies that are looking for design work if you're a designer, or development work if you're a developer, or illustration work if you're an illustrator. It doesn't matter what your service is. Look for a company that isn't big enough that they have their own team for that, but do need that type of service on a regular basis. If you do that, you can establish a relationship with these companies that they will come back to you and they will see you as a contractor for them. So anytime they have that type of work, you're going to be the go-to person for that. If you can establish a business relationship like that, I think the potential there to be successful long-term and to also feel, in terms of the mental load, less stressed about your job. I think that's a really good situation to be in. One more thing to remember though is that your prices probably can't be super high, because if you're being subcontracted, that means this agency or company has already billed or bid a certain budget to this client, and the client is paying that agency, and then the agency has to work with that budget, and obviously they still want profit, so they're going to deduct the amount it takes for them to do their part and then the part it takes to pay you, and they still want to have a profit left after that. So you're going to get a smaller piece of the cake, something to remember. But honestly, I think having potentially a little bit less income, but therefore not having all of the stress that comes from working with your own clients, I think that's a good deal. The second model of being self-employed, which is what we're doing, is being an agency, having your own clients, potentially also having employees, and a lot of stuff comes along with that. So you have your client management, you have your team that you're managing, you have more bookkeeping because you're managing your team, and you're probably doing 70% admin and 30% actual work. That can be fine if you're someone who likes to do the admin work. For me, it's fine because I actually enjoy all the business stuff. I like all the admin stuff. I don't enjoy doing the design stuff all the time. So I'm fine with someone else doing most of it and I do some of it. If that's who you are and that's what you feel like fits you, then your goal should be to build an agency and have people working for you to do the execution, and you can focus on all the business stuff. The third option, which I see a lot nowadays, are these one-person agencies, and they basically offer multiple services and they outsource everything. So they don't do any of the actual work themselves. They are like a manager who manages employees, but none of those employees are actually employed at the agency. They just outsource and subcontract them. So they subcontract multiple freelancers for different projects, and they manage the client, they manage the people they're working with, the subcontractors, they do art direction, and they do all of that. I see that a lot. I feel like it's a relatively new business model that a lot of people have been doing. It's beneficial if you are someone who's not super creative. You want to be involved in creative projects, but you don't want to be the one having to do all of the actual work. So executing, coming up with ideas. You want to outsource all of that and just hand it off to your client and be like, this is what we've done. Please provide feedback. And then you provide that to the subcontractor. You're kind of like a middleman between the client and the subcontractor. That's something that makes sense for people who like to do all of the management stuff and don't like to do the creative stuff. For me, I feel like that would be too much management and I would lose track of everyone, and I'm not organized enough for that. I think you need to be super organized to be able to run that successfully. In terms of the pricing, someone doing that kind of situation or someone running an agency is going to be able to sell projects at a higher price than someone who's a freelancer who's been subcontracted. Again, if you are the last person in the food chain brain, so the one doing the execution, and that's running up to someone who's managing the client, you're gonna be making the least amount of money. If you're the one managing everything, you're gonna be making the most amount of money. That's just how the world works. But you also carry all of the risk, all of the stress. So I feel like it's fair that you make the most money, and it does balance out because it needs to be worth all of that stress for you to do it at all. So another reason I always tell people don't be self-employed is that I feel like a lot of people forget how much work goes into running the business. Being a freelancer is running a business. So you have to do things like taxes, bookkeeping, deal with paperwork, deal with potential clients. You're constantly looking for new jobs. So can you imagine being laid off? You're writing application after application after application and you're not getting a job. That's kind of what self-employment is like, especially at the beginning. You're not actively writing clients. It's not like you're cold emailing them, but you are constantly on the lookout for new leads. For the self-employed person, the writing the applications is the marketing. So you're constantly doing marketing. I don't know if it's like social media or it's your portfolio or whatever it is, or you're on LinkedIn, but you're always on the lookout for new jobs. You're never employed unless you're able to negotiate retainer contracts with clients where you know they're going to be coming back to you for years on end. You are constantly in the state of, where's my next contract coming from? Where's the next project coming from? Creative services is usually project work, and project work is usually something that goes over a few months at a time and then it ends, and then you have to look for the next one, and it fluctuates. You can have a lot of projects at once and then you have no projects for a while. So it's super stressful because you never know how many projects you're going to have at a time and how long that's going to sustain you for. I feel like this type of thing stabilizes the longer you're in the business because your network grows and referrals just come in without you having to do a lot of work. But at the beginning, it can be really stressful because you don't know if people are going to come and contact you and how many people are going to contact you, how many projects you're going to have in that year. It's a lot of existential crisis going on for a long time. So this video isn't meant to scare anyone off from becoming a freelancer. It's really just about, one, being aware of what you're getting yourself into, because I feel like we weren't aware. And we have another video on that, 6 things I wish we knew before starting the business. But what I really wanted to communicate with this video is to understand that when you become self-employed, let's say you are a designer or an illustrator or photographer, you are going to view the business as the thing that you do, which is the photography, the illustrations, the design. But it's not about the thing that you do. It's about how do you want to run your business and what does the admin of that look like. If you are somebody who enjoys admin work, who enjoys client management, then you want to be looking at your business as something like an agency. Even if you're a one-person thing, you have your own clients, position yourself that way so that clients come to you. But if you are someone that doesn't enjoy any of that, that just wants to be on their own doing creative stuff all the time, getting to do the design, then you want to be looking for people to hire you that are doing all of that admin work for you. So either one of these one-person agencies that's looking to subcontract all of the creative work, or a bigger agency, a bigger company that doesn't have an in-house team for the stuff that you do, that is going to contract people to do it for them. And if I had known that those things exist when I started out, I might not have decided to do the business the way that we decided to do it. I think I probably could have been happy just being a subcontracted freelancer and just executing all day and then being able to hand it off and someone else to deal with the client stuff. I'm not saying I don't enjoy what I do now. I'm super happy with it, but I think I would also be happy doing that other thing. I think it's important before you start your business, or if you've already started it and you're not happy with how it's going, to reflect on what do you actually want to be doing and make sure you design your business strategy to work around that and work for that. If you want to learn more about running a creative business, be sure to check out our course, Creative Business Essentials, which gives you all of the key concepts that you need to understand to be successful in the creative industry. There's a link to that in the description below, and be sure to check out the rest of our channel and subscribe if you like this video.